Raghuveer Singh ji.
Okay, sir. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Neha ma'am, you may please start.
Okay, sir. Good afternoon, everyone present over here. I, Neha Anand, on behalf of Faculty of Engineering and Computing Sciences, Teerthanker Mahaveer University, Moradabad, extend a cheerful welcome to you all. We are delighted to offer the most hospitable welcome we can. It is a glad welcome we bring to you this day, filled with the desires, hopes, and dreams we all share. Our desire is to extend a gracious and inclusive welcome to you all on this 1 week symposium on purpose, challenges, and implication of National Education Policy 2020. It is a great day, the one we have been planning and waiting for since long, and let me assure you all that we are going to have a great time together. I would like to express my sincere thanks to you all, and in particular our eminent speakers. I welcome Professor R.S. Gerewal, former Vice Chancellor, Chitkara University, and Professor R.K. Dwivedi, Director and Principal, Faculty of Engineering and Computing Sciences. This is an opportune time for me to declare the official opening of the 1 week symposium on purpose, challenges, and implication of National Education Policy 2020. We Indians start everything with the name of God, so following the tradition, Ya Devi Sarvbhuteshu Buddhi Rupin Sanstitha Namastasye 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 Namo Nama. Salutation to the Divine Mother, who manifests as the intelligence in all beings. Salutations. We thank to Almighty God, who empowered us with the intellect and the belief to conduct this 1 week symposium. National Education Policy 2020 envision a contemporary education system that foresees to contribute directly to transform our nation sustainably into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society by providing high quality education to all. This policy is a comprehensive framework for elementary education to higher education, as well as vocational training in both rural and urban India. National education policy is ambitious and futuristic, but much of its success depends on how it will be executed. There is a need to create awareness about national education policy amongst teachers, students, officials, and other stakeholders of higher education system so that we can together help India in becoming a knowledge superpower. This symposium holds the vision of engaging academic fraternity into a meaningful assignment along with spreading knowledge regarding NEP, which will contribute towards the intellectual wealth of the nation. The theme of today is transformation of regulatory framework and internationalization of higher education. Regulation of higher education has been too heavy-handed for decades. Too much has been attempted to be regulated with too little effect. The mechanistic and disempowering nature of the regulatory framework system has been rife with very basic problems, such as heavy concentration of power within few bodies, conflict of interest among these bodies, and a resulting lack of accountability. The regulatory system is in need of a complete overhaul in order to re-energize the higher education sector and to enable it to thrive. To address these issues, the regulatory system of higher education will ensure that the distinct function of regulation, accreditation, funding, and academic standard setting will be performed by distinct, independent, and empowered bodies. It is considered essential to create checks and balance in the system, minimize conflict of the interest, and eliminate concentration of power. These four structures will be set up as four independent verticals within one umbrella institution, the Higher Education Commission of India. To provide deep insight into the theme, we have three eminent speakers with us. Professor R.S. Gerewal, former Vice Chancellor, Chitkara University, Professor Raghuveer Singh, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Teerthanker Mahaveer University, and Professor R.K. Dwivedi, Director and Principal, Faculty of Engineering and Computing Sciences. Before I request Professor R.K. Dwivedi to introduce our speaker, I would like to cover few housekeeping topics. All the sessions are being recorded and we will be able to share the links with you once the symposium gets completed. You all will be muted to have interruption-free session. We invite your comments and question. Please look at the question answer chat box on your screen. If you think you have a question for the speaker at any time, just type it in there and we will pose it to the speaker for discussion at the query session. Now I request Professor Dwivedi to kindly take over the charge for further proceeding.
Am I audible to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Professor R.S. Grewal.
Dr. Dwivedi, you are not audible. Something went wrong at your end.
Spreading what he is having in his mind. बदलती है परिस्थितियां मगर हारूंगा नहीं हिम्मत सृजन का मेरा ये व्रत चलता रहेगा अनवरत. So this is the theme of Professor Raghuveer Singh, and he is completely implementing in Teerthanker Mahaveer University. Dear friends, let me introduce Professor R.S. Grewal. He is one of the academic driver of Indian education ecosystem. Basically, the Indian education system gives the future direction to the nation. And with the help of NEP, there is a need to build a strong higher education system in order to prepare a strong nation. As we see 300 years back, our education system was great because we were having a great educational institutions like Nalanda, Takshashila, etc. and etc. So to regain its glory, MHRD has announced to implement new education policy. And now the India has to invest in building higher educational institutions. Now I'm formally introducing Professor Grewal, Vision and Wisdom. Professor Grewal, basically Brigadier Dr. and Professor R.S. Grewal. He is a 4th generation army officer in his family. He did civil engineering, and apart from serving in the Indian Army, he has been head of various higher educational institutions. And he is an alumnus of National Defense Academy, Khadak Washla. He has served on the faculty of Defense Service Staff College, Wellington, and College of Military Engineering. He has the distinction of being the first serving officer from 3 services to be recognized as a guide for PhD level studies by University of Madras. His more than 55 years of service includes proven track record of managing technical training institutions, both in the army and in the universities. He has had the distinction of setting up 3 educational institutions from the scratch and nurturing those to the path of growth. His main forte has been prospective planning, that is the first one, policy formulation, and plan implementation. Another dimension, industry academia collaboration, developing inter-institutional tie-ups, including those at international labels. faculty development, pedagogical development, and student relations. He has contributed various papers at the level of national and international journals and conferences. He is also a member of Higher Education Committee of FICCI and has been the speaker at the numerous national and international seminars in India and abroad. He has also been the chairman of various peer committees constituted by NAC accreditation of higher education institution. Friends and respected participants, I would like to communicate that Brigadier Grewal has been chief engineer in the BRO, that is Border Road Organization, in a terrain that is considered as a logistician's nightmare. Apart from being director of Sikkim Manipal Institute of Technology, pro vice chancellor of Sikkim Manipal University, and director ICI Manipal Academy, now that is Manipal University, Bangalore. He has been vice chancellor of Chitkara University from 2008 to 2018. 10 years complete tenure. His services were recognized by the President of India with the award of coveted Vishisht Seva Medal. Another thing which he loved, he is a flair for language, and apart from English, Hindi, Punjabi, Urdu, he studies Burmese, and he can read and write Tamil as well. This is his hidden potential, and he has been the treasurer of Equestrian Federation of India. So I hope with the theme, as Dr. Neha has narrated, that regulatory framework and internationalization of higher education. With this, I would like to invite Professor R.S. Grewal to give his opinion and guide us. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Devedi, for your kind words. I would like to share screen. Can you see the Can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yeah, we are able to see.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to interact with you all. My greetings to you all on the occasion of Day. And I hope we are able to work together to achieve our national goals. I have been asked to speak on the topic transformation of regulatory framework and internationalization of higher education as far as National Education Policy of 2020 is concerned. Now, I thought, what is my objective today? For this vast subject, therefore I have decided that my objective today should be to familiarize the audience with salient features of National Education Policy 2020 pertaining to regulatory regime and internationalization, and to suggest the way forward for its implementation. I am not going to talk about what could have been done. The reason being, time to suggest improvements in the national education policy is over. Time now is to act. We have been discussing this for a long time now, and therefore that stage should be over, and we should now put our heads together, put our energies together to start its implementation. Now, to do that, before I talk about the national education policy, I'll take just for 2-3 minutes, set the scene as to which is the environment in which we are operating, the big picture. This national education policy is the need of the hour. We have been working on it for a long, long time. First, we had the national education policy which came up in 1986. It was amended in 1992. And there, at the turn of the century, it was felt that there is a need for a new policy. So in 2005, the San Petroda Commission was created and they gave their report in 2006. It was known as National Knowledge Commission. Somehow, that report was not implemented. Thereafter came the Yashpal Committee report. That report was submitted in 2009. Again, it was not implemented. In 2014, one IS officer by the name Mr. Srivastava, he gave his report, not Subramaniam. He was tasked to prepare a report on national education policy. He gave the report, but that was in 2016. Again, it was not implemented. Kasturi Rangan was then given the charge and he submitted his report in 2019. But because of the elections to the parliament, that could not be implemented. And after the new parliament was constituted, it has taken us more than 1 year to come to a stage to start implementation of the national education policy which has been formulated. The draft of the policy was running into about 484 pages. It must have been a Herculean effort for the bureaucrats to reduce it from 484 pages to just 66 pages now. I am today reminded of a comment made by an eminent academician, which is his name is Mr. Philip Altbach. He's from the US. He said India is an expensive talking shop. Both India and China decided to revamp their higher education sector in 1990. Both started thinking as to what to do about it. China decided, they implemented, and they are far, far ahead of us. We are still talking as to what is to be done. Fortunately, now we have decided what is to be done. Let's hope that we implement it well. If you look at this policy or read this policy document deeply, and if you read the Radhakrishnan Committee report, it is the birthday of Dr. Radhakrishnan today, coincidentally. If you read his report, which he submitted in 1948, as far as the higher education sector was concerned, you will find almost 90% is common. So what is required to be done was known to us in 1948. We have 7 decades, more than 7 decades. So let's get back to the task of finishing. An interesting feature of the Indian higher education system is that it started expanding after the Indian economy was liberalized in 1990. In 2006, we had been setting up 1 university per week and 5 colleges per day. And if you go back to the San Petroda Commission report, he said that we need 1,500 universities. Today, we have approximately 1,100 universities. If you read the All India Survey on Higher Education report 2000, that states that as on 30th September 2018, India had 993 universities. And if we add 50 universities per year, today we should be having approximately 1,100 universities. Hopefully, the All India Survey of Higher Education 2020 will be out soon, and this figure would be reflected therein. But an interesting feature is that in polytechnics on IT not track the expansion of the universities. And only 26.7% students are there in the higher education sector in the universities. Remainder all should actually have been joining the polytechnics and the ITIs, where that means almost 73% of the population between 18 to 23 years of age should have been here. And we have not paid much attention to that. In the process of expansion, we have created two distinct categories in our higher education system. One is India, another one is Bharat. What I implied by India is institutions like IITs, IIMs, NITs, and other such tier 1 institutions. Approximately about 3 to 4% or maximum 5% of our students study these institutions. 95% of our institutions are covered in the category of Bharat, where most of the almost 95% of the students study, and their state is really apathetic, very, very poor. And that is why India is lagging behind as far as education sector is concerned. There is a big gap between objectives as to what we want to achieve and what we achieve actually on ground. There are various reasons for that. First, we have a very restrictive and inspection regulatory regime. Our regulators are basically interested in inspections or providing licenses, and that license Raj is playing havoc with the system. Second aspect, our faculty has not kept pace with the time. The way we teach our students is the same way where my grandfather studied in college. It is basically blackboard and chalk or whiteboard and marker and lectures, nothing more than that. 95% of the teachers do that. See, the type of students that are coming to us, that changed. We had, I'm from a generation of baby boomers. Baby boomers were born in the period between 1946 to 64. Thereafter came Generation X, which was from 65 to 86. Thereafter came Generation Y, which was from 86 to 2006. And now we have Generation Z entering our higher education system. And they all have different ways of learning. Their expectations are different. Their learning preferences are different. But our faculty is still continuing with the system that was prevalent in 1950. So we need to change. The fault does not lie only with the regulators. The fault lies with us also. But also, the approach of students also needs to change. They come to the colleges or universities basically to earn degrees so that they become eligible for jobs. They ask for placements. How they assess an institution is how good as far as placements are concerned. The aspects related to self-learning, analytical ability, commitment, problem solving, and other such skills are almost non-existent. If you compare the students who are going to Indian universities and students who are going to universities abroad in developed countries, there is a major difference. So students in developed countries, they go to the universities to acquire knowledge. After they acquire knowledge, then they start looking for jobs. Here in India, the day a student joins the university, he feels that he has got a place in his life. He starts looking for that. Acquiring knowledge is not at all his fear. We have to change that mindset also. And please bear in mind, keep talking about our demographic dividend, that we have got a very young population, and this population will help us become a major power in world affairs. But a demographic dividend comes in the history of a nation only once. India's demographic dividend will expire in 2040, and therefore, we need to change fast. And therefore, that is why I say we do not have the luxury to bring about a change. We need a surgical action, transformation. Coincidentally, the title of the seminar today also says that we need transformation. I'm quite hopeful that this word was used keeping this aspect in mind, that cannot change now. That option is no longer available to us. We have to go in for that surgical action, that is the transformation. So we come to the proper the main topic of today, that is the regulatory framework. The existing scenario is that we have had a very heavy-handed regulatory system which has been operating for. It was disempowering regulatory system. When we say disempowering regulatory system, let me uh, elucidate an example. The need for online teaching, online academic delivery was felt almost 30 years ago. 30 years ago, 3 decades. But our regulators, they did not permit us to stop. They said, we will decide which university can do it and which university cannot do it. They had the license. And with the result, what happened was, when the corona pandemic hit us, we had only 100 universities who were allowed to carry out academic delivery online. All others were left to fend for themselves. Now everybody is resorting to online academic delivery. But please remember, online academic delivery requires special expertise. It is a special way of teaching, requires support of learning material, which we have not prepared. We have wasted 30 years because of this empowering regulatory system that was instigated. There's a heavy concentration of powers with the regulators like UGC, AICTE, and there is conflicts of interest. Like about 7, 8 years ago, the Distance Education Council and IGNOU, the head was the same person. The Vice Chancellor of IGNOU was the head of Distance Education Council. So there was a conflict of interest. If other distance education providers were prospering, he felt threatened. Similarly, there is lack of accountability in the system. The regulators are not accountable to anyone. For that matter, everybody in the system, the students, the teachers, the managements, there's no lack of accountability. I'm using very strong terms, please don't mind it. But if we want to improve, we should be prepared for criticism. There is a credibility gap in quality assurance. Our accreditation agencies, they give A+ rating to universities, and in world rankings, these universities don't even appear in the first top 500. What is the value of that rating of A+ or A++? Even within the country, there are universities which have been given A or A+ grade, and in the NEP ranking, they don't score that high. So therefore, there is a credibility gap, and we have to ensure that our is really very, very realistic, and we should be able to call a spade, irrespective of the fact that university is in the public sector or in the private one. How is that university? I have covered this aspect related to accountability. Teachers are not accountable for what they are doing. The management is not accountable. The leadership is not accountable. The regulators are not accountable. We need to build in that accountability into the system. Models are adopted on various occasions from abroad, and they are applied to the Indian scenario without taking into account our own system. I'll give you an example. Some years ago, they said abolish the board exams from the schools, and options were given to the schools that they either they could appear for CBSE or ICSE or the school board examination, or they could conduct the examination themselves and give the grades to the students. Later, it was found that the move resulted in dilution of the standards, and we had discarded. The people who implemented this policy, they did not realize that Indian faculty was not yet mature enough to be given independent charge of grading the students. Similarly, we have heard of credit-based, choice-based credit system, choice-based credit system. This system can only be implemented when the faculty member has got the complete liberty to teach and assess. But our faculty is not yet mature enough, and therefore we need to have a control of examination in the university. Therefore, there has to be a centralized system of examinations. And if you have choice-based credit systems, the number of permutation combinations of the subjects will be taken up by the students will be so large that it will be almost impossible for the controller of examinations to prepare a clash date sheet. And therefore, this system of choice-based system will face major problems. Unfortunately, people who decided to implement this system, they did not realize that foreign universities, Indian universities, they have a major structure. In foreign universities, there is no appointment known as controller of examinations. They don't have a system of centralized examination. The teacher teaches and he awards the grades. So therefore, there is no requirement of a date sheet, no requirement for wastage of time. We need to borrow good ideas, but we should apply those to our system after duly modifying those, keeping into mind our operational scenario. I talk about this aspect of the demographic dividend being missed out, that I can improve immediately. The problem is going to be people will be roaming around on the streets with degrees in their hands without any skills, without any jobs. So, keeping this aspect in mind, the National Education Policy has decided to change the regulatory system. We will have a Higher Education Commission of India, which will be an umbrella organization. It will have four distinct verticals, each four distinct verticals. One vertical will deal with regulation, another will deal with accreditation, the third one will deal with funding, and fourth one will deal with academic standards setting. And these will be working independently, but in close coordination with each other and create a system to achieve our national goals. The system will try to build in accountability at different levels, that is at the regulatory regime level and as well as higher education institutions level. Both will have to show accountability as far as their functioning is concerned. When I say HEI, it means higher education institutions. Higher education institutions could be colleges, could be universities. And this regulatory system says that there will be no distinction, no bias based on the origin of a higher education institution, that is whether it is public or private. And the system will have complete transparency and make use of the existing IT technology to ensure there are going to be 4 verticals under the Higher Education Commission of India. Now, in case of any dispute between those verticals, the commission will adjudicate to resolve that matter. The system will try to ensure that setting up of new higher education institutions be easier. I wonder how many of you know that if you want to set up a university today, you need 18 different types of clearances, various agencies. 18. By the time you get those clearances, you have wasted 2 to 3 years. The system also feels that those higher education institutions who perform well, they will be provided requisite help by central and state government to expand their capacity. This is a big incentive. And there are going to be institutions which are set up by philanthropic organizations, and those will be considered at par with higher education institutions. It is an unstated aim. You will not find it written in the document, but that is an unstated aim. So, what does Higher Education Commission of India, how will it look like? It will, as I told you, it will have 4 verticals. The first vertical is National Higher Education Regulatory Council, NHERC. Second one will be National Accreditation Council. The third one will be Higher Education Grants Council. And the fourth one will be General Education Council. These councils will have persons appointed at key positions who are experts in respective domains. They have high integrity, they are committed to the profession, and they have a good track record of public service. A point to note here is the Yashpal Committee as National Knowledge Commission. They had said that also said that there should be one overarching body. National Knowledge Commission called it Integrated Regulatory Higher Education Authority for Education, and the Yashpal Committee said CHER. Both those commissions had said that people who head these organizations should be appointed by a committee, something like what we do for the Chief Justice of India. That means it should be appointed by a committee comprising the Prime Minister, the Chief Justice of India, and the head of the leader of the opposition party in the parliament. That was to ensure there is no political interference in the system. But that provision has not been incorporated in this policy. Now, let's come to the first vertical, that is the National Higher Education Regulatory Commission, Council. It is going to be a single point regulator. There are total regulatory bodies in the country, like All India Council of Technical Education, Indian Nursing Council, NCT for Teachers Education, Pharmacy Council of India. All these are going to come under this National Higher Education Regulatory Council, except medical and law. Bar Council of India, Medical Council of India, which is now known as National Medical Council, they will not be under this National Higher Education Regulatory Council. It will subsume all existing regulatory agencies, and then it will have tight, big, a very tall order. Let's hope they succeed in that. The regulator basically will ensure that there is financial probity, there is good governance, there is public self-disclosure of important aspects like fee structure, the details of the faculty, the programs run, the financial audit, and so on. Those aspects are put up by the universities on their websites as well as on the website of Higher Education Council of India. And in case of any complaint or grievances, a stakeholder will be able to make a complaint to National Higher Education Regulatory Council, who will then investigate and take. And they will also keep checking up with randomly selected students, including disabled students, and whether how university is being run. Now, both these points and feedback have the potential of chaos. I'll talk about it slightly later. Thereafter comes the National Accreditation Council. It will create an independent ecosystem accredited working under NEP. That means a large number of accreditation agencies will be set up. At have only two, NAC and NB, and they have not been able to keep up with the load of accrediting all the institutions. Just imagine 50,000 colleges and 1,100 universities. How will just two universities, two accredited agencies with that load? So you will find a large number of accrediting institutions coming up. How will these be set up, etc., is going to be seen later. And then how many number of accreditors are going to be set up, that whether they are going to be in the private sector or public sector, or private agencies will also be appointed as accreditors. And it will be based on basic norms of public self-disclosure, good and the outcomes. What is the value addition to the student that you have made from the date he joined you and from the day and on the day he passes out from you? That means, let's say, for example, a student who joins, let's say, D-Tech in mechanical, where was he when he joined us? And then, at the end of the program, what does he know and what he can do? The Accreditation Council, as a short-term measure, will continue with the graded accreditation system which is prevalent now, that award grades to various institutions. But later, it is expected that all higher education institutions will develop their own institutional development plans. And within the next 50 years, they will try to see as to how you have implemented those plans, how you have developed the institution. And once that system matures, the long-term aim will be accreditation to be on a binary process. That means an institution will be given only accredited or not accredited grade. That system of A, B, C grades will be done away with. Then we have Higher Education Grants Council. It will take on the role of the UGC, where it provides the funds. Except the research, all other financial aspects will be under this. Funding and financing education based on transparent criteria. They will lay down as to, if you want funding, these are the criteria. The important is going to be the institutional development plans, IDP, and the progress by the institutions therein. They will also disperse scholarships to universal for brilliant students, and also funds for launching those areas and expanding quality programs in higher education institutions. That is what they will do. Finally, there will be a General Education Council. It will have two major functions. First one is it will prepare a national higher educational framework. That means they will lay down the outcomes for various programs. That means if a student is doing his BTech, what he should know at the end of the program, what he should be able to do at the end of the program. Similarly, for all other MBA, BBA, BCA, for all other programs, they will lay down the qualification framework. They will specify the learning outcomes for various programs, and they will specify the skills which a student should be able to acquire at the end of based on the qualification which a student acquires in the program, that is the number of credits he earns, whether it is a degree, diploma, or certificate, that will be described in the National Higher Education Qualification Framework. Of course, there will be certain guidelines laid down. You just cannot accumulate credits at random. And they will also lay down norms for credit transfer, including credit transfers from foreign universities if required, and they will also work out equivalence through National Higher Education Qualification Framework. This aspect related to equivalence is now being dealt with All India AIU, Association of Indian Universities. Now, what happens therefore to the existing councils that are basically council of architecture? These councils act as professional standard setting boards, PSSBs, and they will be invited to become members of the GEC. Please note the word, they will be invited to become members of the GEC. They will draw the curriculum for various programs. They will lay down academic standards. They will coordinate between teaching, research, and extension of the domains as members. And specify curriculum framework. Based on the curriculum framework, the higher education institutions will prepare their own curricula for various programs. I'll just pause 1 minute. I hope people who are attending this webinar, they can differentiate between what is a curriculum and what is a syllabus. Majority of, in my 18 years in the academia, I have found that almost 95% of the faculty does not know the difference between a curriculum and a syllabus. We must do that at the moment whenever a curriculum has to be designed. That is at all in case a university decides to design its own curriculum. What they do is they borrow from others. They borrow the curriculum from others. IIT में क्या होता है, NIT में क्या होता है, IIM में क्या होता है. Now please remember, your curriculum framework has to be based on your vision and mission of the institution. Or I'll give you a live example. Curriculum for a BTech program. For an IIT, it will be different. For any tier 2 or tier 3 institutions, like I will call your university, I'll grade them in tier 2. My university was in tier 2. They have to be, the curriculum has to be different, because IIT, the quality of students is different. They are the top percentile. They are committed. They are ready to learn. They can put in long hours. Their quest is for knowledge. They are prepared to work hard. The facilities in IITs are different. The faculty there is different. Whereas in other universities, tier 2 and tier 3 universities, the quality of the faculty, quality of the students, the facilities available are different. So therefore, the curriculum also has to be different. In IITs, perhaps they will work to create knowledge creators, to produce knowledge creators. Whereas in other tier 2 or tier 3, you will perhaps managers and supervisors. So the curriculum has to be different based on that. So this council will try to work out those aspects. But these professional PSSB, they will have no regulatory role. but they will specify standards in particular fields like management, engineering, arts, humanities, such as. Higher education institutions also decide how education programs will respond to standards. They may even seek assistance from PSSB if needed. Please also remember that new higher education policy is their aim is that we should follow liberal education. Moradabad said that the new policy also says that liberal education. Majority of the faculty in India cannot differentiate what is liberal education, what is liberal arts, how will we teach. So please start working with that aspect. Now, what are the challenges and way forward for implementing regulatory measures those have been? First of all, to implement this national education policy, it is a mammoth task. At the national level, there are going to be more than 150 action plans that are needed to be implemented. For example, University Grants Commission was set up by an Act of Parliament. All India Council of Technical Education was set up by an Act of Parliament. Those acts will have to be repealed, and new acts have to be brought in. Not a very similarly, there are large number of other uh, actions that are required to be taken. Some actions have financial implications, some do not have financial implications. So keep all aspects in mind, it is going to be a major task to implement this national education policy. I pray and hope we are able to do it in a smooth, time-bound manner. The approach for the regulators will also have to change. At the moment, they act more like policemen than enablers. I gave you an example of online teaching. If 30 years ago they had acted as enablers, that okay, online, a teacher should be able to do the following. They should have laid down the criteria. They should have created facilities to train the teachers. I would have called them enablers. But they were more into policing that you will not do this. Second is they should set their bias against the private sector. Today, most of the time in Indian higher education system is wasted in pitting the public sector against the private sector. We are all working for the same cause. Let's pool our energies. Let's focus our energies to achieve the national goals. Most important is that you need a robust, reliable, pragmatic information collection and monitoring mechanism. There should be no need for inspections. Only, invariably, whenever they want to check the system, inspection team. Instead of that, there should be regular flow of information which should be monitored, and for that, mechanism should be set up. And it should also be ensured that the mechanism doesn't create problems at the ground level for the universities and colleges by creating additional paperwork. We need to build the capacity of the faculty. I labored earlier that our faculty is still used to teaching the way my grandfather learned. At least up to 1950, what the system that was being followed, that is what is being followed now. They have to get used to teaching. They have to, must remember, if you have 50-minute session, you can engage the attention of the student only for about 7 to 8 minutes. So 7 to 8 minutes of lecture. Thereafter, show them a video clip. Thereafter, engage them in discussion. Give them a quiz. Again, sum up. Engage in a discussion. So have different menus available within a session. To do that, you will need to develop your expertise. You have been listening to lectures, but change that. Try to learn something on your own. Out of your salary, spend at least 1/10 of it for your own professional growth. Don't just look at the organization for everything or to grow, to help you grow. Another problem is going to be that they said students can lodge complaints with National Higher Education Regulatory Council, C, and subsequent follow action, which will there choke the system. Universities may have to open up separate cells to deal with such complaints. You have seen the RTIs coming up in government departments, received every day. Something of this nature happen with NHRF, and they will ask you for comments, and you will be busy collecting and replying to those accusations. Therefore, system should be modified. This is not the right way of working. As far as the accreditation bodies are concerned, to have number of accreditors, what are going to be the criteria to engage an accreditor? Those qualification QRs, qualitative requirements should be laid down. Will private agencies be allowed to operate as accreditors? There are large number of agencies like CRISIL and so on who can be given this task of acting as accrediting agencies. We must not blame the regulators for everything. We must also realize that there are large number of private agencies, both in higher education and outside, who are unscrupulous. For money, they will do anything. In the year 2010, the government had brought out a draft act that could form a good line to start working on this area. And the graded accreditation system, as I brought out earlier, that the highest graded institutions don't figure anywhere in the national or international rankings. So that has not proven to be reliable. A different model needs to be, and there's likely to be a overlap in the roles of National Accreditation Council and NHERC and professional standard setting boards. We need to ensure that there is no clash over there. I feel that since we are going to set up professional standards setting boards, they should take the role of certification agencies. I'll give you an example. Today, if a student passes his BCom, before he can start practicing as a chartered accountant, he has to get a certification from ICAI. Similarly, if a person finishes his MBBS, he has to get a certification from the newly instituted National Medical Council. National Medical Council will conduct an exit test, and only then can that student start operating as a doctor. Similarly, these agencies should start operating as certification agencies. A student, let's say, does his BTech in civil engineering. He will have to appear for an exit exam by the PSSB. And if he is certified, then only he could be employed by any government body or a private body. Moment you do that, the system of placements or people coming, HR people coming to the universities and the other malpractices that go on with that, that system will go out of fashion. Any company which has to hire people, they will check whether a student has been certified by the agency or not. They will be able to hire. And the parents start asking, how many of your students who did their BTech were able to get their certification? You will no longer have to run after the placement. If we follow the system, it will streamline the complete procedure very, very well. But this is my idea. I'm just saying challenges and the way forward suggested. Okay. Now let's move on to the internationalization. For 7 decades, we have followed a protectionist and control-oriented system towards internationalization. You know, for everything they said, you cannot sign an MOU with a foreign university till the time you get approval from us. And similarly, there are many other regulations. You should be in the top 300 in the NEP ranking. The university with which you want to collaborate, they should be in the top 500 in the world ranking. So many other such restrictions were there. Consequently, what is happening is a large number of Indian students are going to developed countries to study there, innovate there. Once they go there, they carry out research, add intellectual as well as economic value to those countries. You must have seen how many of Indians are heading those institutions there, various companies there all over the world. And today, almost 300,000 students are studying abroad. And each student is spending almost about 30 lakhs per study. This is a national loss. India is also not a preferred destination for foreign students because the system of education is poor. Students from developed countries are just not ready to come to India. Today, we have 40,000 foreign students in India, and most of them are from Nepal, Bangladesh, Bhutan, and other countries. Uh, Such stringent regime institutions have found ways and means to work around the regulations. You hear of the technologies known as articulation arrangements, and so many other things, where you don't have to go to the regulators to seek their permission. You know, the regulators must understand that regulation follows innovation and it is not vice versa. More than that, in India, our foreign collaborations, the basic thrust is on high fee paying students. The foreign universities come here to India to recruit students who will pay high fees in their universities. Similarly, we are students from abroad who can pay high fees here in India. We have just not made much progress in as far as research collaborations are concerned. Rightly, we are very, very poor in research. I think you have a separate section as far as research is concerned. We should actually learn how to carry out research from foreign universities. And then foreign institutions, it is very, very difficult for them to establish campuses in India. They have to collaborate with an Indian partner. There are many restrictions. Those need to be lifted. So what is the approach in the National Education Policy 2020 as far as internationalization is concerned? It aims to attract greater number of foreign students with India-specific programs like Indian medicine, Unani medicine, or Ayurvedic medicine, Indian music, Indian culture. But for that, you need well curricula for that. The way the state of affairs is now, the student cannot come. Perhaps curriculum study Sanskrit is much better in number of foreign universities than it is in India. Similarly, we have to have an internationally relevant curriculum for each program. At the moment, we don't have that. We should facilitate mobility of Indian students who want to go abroad. That is what the policy says. That it will facilitate go abroad. We need to have intellectual capital. Hello. We need to have our faculty as well as our infrastructure of global standards. And in each higher education institution, in each university, we should have an international students office. ISO is International Students Office. And the policy says that we should promote internationalization. I hope you all understand what is the internationalization at home. It means that you create an environment within your university of international standards. You should have students from foreign countries. You should have students from different states studying over there. Your curriculum should have international dimension. Your curriculum should have intercultural dimension. And you should have faculty also coming from abroad to teach here. Then only you can say that you have been able to international. And that is the aim of national education policy. This will help the students who cannot pay high fees to go abroad, and also it will help raise the standard of education within the country. And the policy also says that MOU will be signed with foreign countries for research and teaching collaboration and student faculty. It is something like what Manmohan Singh and Obama agreed to do that. And recently also in 2016, there's something which is known as GYAN. And then it says of 100 universities in the world, as per the international rankings, they'll be allowed to set up campuses. It assumes, the policy assumes that these 100 universities, when they come to India, they will try to maintain the same standards which are there abroad. That assumption may be correct, may not. Let's see that. So, what are the challenges and what is the way forward? Today, the challenges are the outdated curriculum, and those are the main inhibiting factors. That is why the students are not coming here. Students and society are not culturally sensitive. We are biased by the color of the person. People coming from Africa are not treated well. We are frowned upon the way of living of the Western students from Europe or US. We need to be more sensitive, and even society. Maybe studying in your university, they have to go outside in the city. The society also has to be sensitive. The interaction with local administration FR office is not very user friendly. Now, these are the challenges. Now, let's see. My first and foremost point is the report of the renowned universities, that is, who are in the top 100 in the world, is not very good as far as their campuses in certain countries is concerned. If that is the case, what is the guarantee that when they come to India, they will maintain high standards? Second aspect is that we should revamp our curriculum, pedagogy, curriculum delivery in consonance with needs, preferences, and aspirations of Generation Z. They are also called centennials, and it should be all of international standards. We should improve the academic content of programs and research activities. Then only foreign students will start coming to India. Then we should get over the obsession with ranking and lay down pragmatic. And we should lay down pragmatic and norms for foreign universities to operate in India. And we should provide a level playing field. It does not mean that the foreign universities have an edge over Indian universities, like we have the system of reservations here. And those aspects should be applicable, those restrictions should be applicable even to foreign universities. And we need to culturally sensitize faculty, students, and local communities. These are certain aspects which I thought we will be able to take policy. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That is all what you said. If you have a question, I'll be willing to answer.
Thank you, Brigadier Professor R.S. Grewal ji. You have given a brief of today's theme, regulatory framework and internationalization of higher education. सर आपके पूरे उसको सुन के मेरे को भगत सिंह जी का एक शेर याद आ गया. मैं वो शेर सुनाता हूं अभी कि मेरे जज्बातों से इस कदर वाकिफ है कलम मेरी कि मैं इश्क भी लिखना चाहूं तो इंकलाब लिख जाता है. So this reflects overall experience and expertise. However, this is the time of one or two small questions from audience side, if anybody have. Otherwise, quick, because we have our next speaker is ready, our honorable vice chancellor. So from speaker side, if anybody is having, otherwise मैं एक मेरा क्वेश्चन है सर कि जैसा ये न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी बनी है तो जैसा कि आपने यू हैव राइटली pointed out how the credibility gaps exist in various what I can say forums like NIRF, NAC, NBA, and many councils also. So how these things can be managed with NEP at international level?
See, that is what I said, that our accreditation agencies will have to have accountability. If they have given an A+ grade, they should be held accountable as to how did you give A grade to a university which is nowhere in the world ranking.
Yeah.
Today, nobody asked them this question. Nobody asked them this question. Once we start asking these questions, you will find things will improve.
Sir, you operated at the top level of national institutions. How we can go for a student exchange program in new education policy?
As far as student exchange program is concerned, our student going abroad is not a major problem. You know, when I was in the university, every 15 days I used to host a delegation from foreign universities who used to come to recruit students here. Their university, they have a system over there that the local students or citizens of the countries, they pay lesser fees and the foreign students pay 3 times the fee. So to exist, to survive, the universities go and recruit foreign students. The problem is, and if the students want to go abroad, they are not bonded labor, let them go abroad. 2 things need to be done. One is that ensure that your system is good enough that students don't need feel the need to go abroad. One. And second is your system should be good enough to attract foreign students to come to India. Now, unfortunately, we have not done that. We need to revise our curriculum. We need to train our faculty. Do you know that we have 66 HRDCs, Human Resource Development Centers in various universities, and we have 5 NIPRs. Nobody has ever asked them a question as to what change have you brought in. There's no, when you ask them, aapne kya kiya? They will say, in this year, I conducted so many programs. I would like to say that the person who attended your program, were you able to bring about a change? In NITTR should be held accountable for change in the system in their region. They should the faculty, and the problem is not with these organizations. 50 years ago, they felt that our faculty in universities and colleges is not fit enough and they need specialized training. And therefore, let's set up National Institute for Technical Teachers Training and Research. We did that.
Sir, one question from our participants that
Just
that
let me finish this point.
okay.
Now, NITTR, when they were set up, faculty should have been brought from outside who were well trained and who could train your faculty. Instead of doing that, what we did was from our own universities, we hired the faculty who themselves needed improvement. And the result, the system deteriorated. Okay, next question.
Sir, one of our participants from Jalandhar, Dr. Kamaljeet Singh, who is like to ask that as in present situation, because various bodies are existing, but none of them were focusing for research. So how this research funding and promotion can be taken care with NEP 2020?
My first question, Kamaljeet, is first of all, is any of our universities engaged in serious research? I don't think so. And anybody, when you talk to him about research, whether he's going to work hard or whether he's going to engage in serious research, he digresses the question, diverts the question. He says research funding, sir. UGC नहीं देता है पैसा. Department of Science and Technology, private universities को पैसा नहीं देती. But the right thing is, first of all, members themselves do not know how to carry out research. That has been my experience of the last 18 years since I left the army. And even otherwise also, when I was in the army, I was very closely associated with universities. I find that our faculty does not know how to carry out research. They are not even curious to find out various things. Please go and carry out a survey today. How many of you can give me the full form of PhD? One. And if they are able to tell me that PhD stands for this, the second question is, if it is Doctor of Philosophy, why is it not written as DPH and why is it written PhD? They don't even know that, and you say they will carry out research. Please teach them how to carry out research. I'm sorry to use these strong terms, but my heart bleeds when I see those things. Money is being spent. There is no accountability that, okay, you got a research grant of 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 50 lakhs, 50 lakhs. What have you produced after you finished your research? There's no accountability there.
Thank you, Brigadier Grewal. We'll keep this query session after the session taken by Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Raghuveer Singh ji. As I narrated his vision and wisdom. बदलती हैं परिस्थितियां मगर हारूंगा नहीं हिम्मत, सृजन का ये मेरा व्रत, चलता रहेगा अनवरत. Such kind of statesman personality, Professor Raghuveer Singh ji. Let me read his biodata.
I have to leave in another 20 minutes. I have to go for another webinar. Okay.
Okay, sir. So, dear,
Make it short.
Okay, dear participants, Professor Raghuveer Singh ji is Honorable Vice Chancellor of Teerthanker Mahaveer University, and he is having more than 25 years of teaching and administrative expertise. He is eminent scholars of SP Jain Management Institution, Mumbai. He worked with the various capacities, and basically his research area is related to what I can say, turnaround and mergers, human resource and education system reforms. He has been conducting various MDPs and MDPs since last 12 years in various areas. He is eminent, what I can say, academician. Professor Singh has worked with BITS Pilani, BITS Ranchi, Modi, Lakshmangad, BIT Mesra, and many system. He is basically the roller coaster of Indian education ecosystem. And what I can say, I would like to invite him. First of all, we would like to hear him. Then we'll have a query session. And I would like to invite him with one quotation that है कठिन यह मार्ग लेकिन अनवरत हम बढ़ रहे हैं, इन प्रबलतम आंधियों से हम निरंतर लड़ रहे हैं, साधना साकार कर दे बस यही निश्चय है ठना, चिर विजय की कामना है, कर्म ही आराधना है. So I would like to invite the Karma Yogi, Professor Dr. Raghuveer Singh ji, for his valuable address in this NEP 2020 with sub-theme of regulatory framework and internationalization of higher education. Professor Singh, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rakesh. And good evening, everybody listening on the side. Thank you so much having me here. And let me thank from bottom of my heart, Dr. Grewal, for laying bare the National Education Policy 2020. You have given us a wonderful canvas. And I'm sure every aspect of National Education Policy has been covered, and you made my task very difficult. Let me confess before you. So I'll have to find my way out. How do I actually wriggle with this issue? Thank you, but it's been wonderful hearing you. I sat through all this time and have been patiently listening to you, and a wonderful insight which you gave to us. Thank you so much. Before I begin, let me seek a disclaimer for words which I probably use. Maybe quite harsh to somebody who is listening, but I don't have any intention to hurt anybody's feelings. But I will just state facts, which are my sheer observations about Indian higher education. So I'll start with the first saying something about Indian higher education currently, and then subsequently I move to issues with existing regulatory bodies, and then of course try and give a deeper insight into various aspects of what changes the regulatory mechanism is trying to bring about. So it's so sorry to see for last 70 years we haven't changed a bit as far as our education system is concerned. I've been telling time and again, the way my grandfather was taught, my son was also taught in the same way. Probably grandchildren might have a different way, but it has over last 90 years or so not changed much. So today, Indian education system, when we look at it, it's all content driven and exam oriented. That's the first thing which I like to say. It is teaching and rote learning emphasis. We as teachers are actually emphasizing on one-way communication. We teach, we don't care about learning. Actually, we never discuss the word called learning in the classroom or in our general conversation. Parents and children are basically degree and marks driven. That's the single pursuit which they have in their mind. Learning is completely missing from the system. As I said, it is never discussed. Skills have no place in our entire, academic processes. And above all, you have multi-regulatory framework in the country. So many bodies have so much of conflict. So it's difficult to even follow for a university like us. We, though, as an independent autonomous institution, but we all are directed by councils. That's so unfortunate. And this affiliation system has persisted so long. It was understandable if it could have persisted, say, till 80, 90, because we wanted to take our education to the last leg of our population, that is spread it, make it accessible to the rural areas. Having achieved that objective, that this particular system should have been done away with. So today you have almost 50,000 colleges, standalone colleges, small colleges, does not have sufficient infrastructure, faculty, no research, therefore all that, this means majority of students actually study there where we don't have a basic infrastructure which is required for education. 30 years, nothing has changed in education, and industry has rapidly changed. So today we talk about industry 4.0, and we are at education 1.0 in our country. So what is happening is we make incoherent efforts to try to prepare our students to meet the demands of industry. That's not, in fact, leading to us any great achievement. And above all, in our regulatory system as of now, there is no provision for punishing the dubious institutions. The UGC can at the most do two things. That is, one, it can bring out a list of such institutions and display on its website and give a penalty of rupees 1,000. 1956 onwards, the same amount has been persisting. So you have large number of dubious institutions as well as poor quality institutions persisting in the country. And there has been a very poor internationalization in the country. In fact, we have been shielded, as Professor Grewal already mentioned to you. We were really shielded, protected, and separated from what is happening in international area. And suddenly the government wakes up, why aren't we in first 100 universities of the globe? That's like asking too much, and all of a sudden. Research component is completely missing, as highlighted by my fellow panelists. And most of the education, quality or no quality, the concentration has been in large cities. Smaller towns, unfortunately, were bereft of all these facilities. So is the rural area. Whatever we have, very small and so poor education institutions in these areas. Therefore, the large chunk of our population is actually have no access to the quality education. This is what the national education today appears to me. Now let's move to the issues with existing regulatory bodies. What is that, in fact, persisted so long and actually gave us a prescriptive regulatory mechanism. Prescriptive regulatory mechanism. That means which has to be followed by statement or word by word. It has completely eroded autonomy of universities in India due to multiple regulatory bodies. See, university as such created by an independent, act, whether the central government or a state government, right, has an equally legal footing as any of these councils have. But that autonomy has been completely eroded because of multiple reasons. I'll state one. One is the tendency of usurping power and functions of autonomous bodies. As a human tendency, if we are given a small leeway, and Hindi mein kehte hain ki anguli pakadai to pauncha pakad liya. That is a kind of a tendency these regulatory bodies have over a period of time developed. Their role was more to regulate and give approvals, but over a period of time, they got into the academic processes of the universities. Today, if you look deeper into the provisions of these institutions, these councils, and read through their provisions, you will be appalled to say that they tell you what is going to be not only the curriculum, how many credits, how many hours, how many days, what is going to be the contents in each course, and how many examination, what numbers of examination, how will you grade them, and even some of the councils go to the extent of giving you the timetable. Now, this is a really horrifying state of affairs, rather doing away with the autonomy of the university. So what has actually happened, I'm a firm believer of that. We all have become parrots. We are parroting to these councils over a period of time. So why have we? Because we have, as an institutions or universities, have been unable to stand them, or we have willingly given to them our own powers to deal with. So these dictates we take willingly. There's no one who objects because of various reasons. Maybe because we are weak on our legs, therefore we don't stand before them, we don't question them, we don't move to the courts. There could be a number of reasons why we have not been able to stand to such dictates. So how come one legal entity giving dictates to another legal entity? At the most, you can lay down the guidelines, cannot dictate. Now, this is more because of the reasons is the weakness of the HEIs rather than anything else. So over a period of time, these regulatory bodies have actually entered into the operational areas of the universities and have forgotten the strategic perspective which they were supposed to provide to the universities or the higher education institution. Why it has happened? It is just my observation. I don't have any research or any survey proof behind it. My observation is that it's a human tendency to start working on an easier path. You know, the human behaves like an electric current. It always takes easiest path. So for any higher education council, it is easy to assert the power of such institutions and start laying down all this, which is the actually work of an institution. Hence, giving a strategic perspective to the institution or higher education institution requires deep thinking. It requires a lot of hard work. It requires a lot of consultations. It requires a lot of perspective, global perspective, which probably they have not done. So that is why it is. So what has happened now, because of these reasons, what has happened is faculty or the leadership of these institutions has been weakened. Today, faculty's creativity has been completely lost because he's not been given opportunity to deal with curriculum setting. As you've been talking about, the people they know the difference between curriculum and the course. Why? Because the curriculum has already been defined, right? Whoever has been a little bit autonomous, as you mentioned, the curriculum actually should come out from outcomes which we need to have for students at the end of the program. But they all have been pulled together from various sources, and hence you have a curriculum. So the faculty has become a parrot. Faculty has lost the creativity, lost its innovation to design curriculum, to select and develop pedagogical aspects, and even the ability to think creatively about assessment strategy. Hence that alignment which we've been talking about in education systems, right from your outcomes to curriculum design, that instructional design, to the pedagogy or andragogy or heutagogy, whatever you call, and then the assessment. All of this must be linked. It's a perfect integration. But it's so unfortunate to say that that opportunity has been lost. Hence, there is no seamless alignment because of this conflicting interest of various bodies and the powers usurped by such regulatory bodies. So what has happened, as I already mentioned, is it has really damaged our educational system. Let me be very, very outright on these particular aspects. And the composition and role of various higher education verticals and our overarching body has already been discussed detailed by Professor Grewal, so I'm not going to deal with this because there is nothing much to say on this because it's there on the paper. Now, why this change in regime? Why have we trying to do this? What is the thinking of the government behind it? Of course, I have not read the perspective plan or the discussion papers, but what I believe is that, number one, why the premise behind all these change in regime is basically functional separation and weeding out inherent conflicting interest of these bodies. That could be the first one. Second is concentration of power within the body, doing everything itself. So it's become too powerful. It's like an autocrat. Okay. Then lack of accountability, which Professor Grewal has been harping on, lack of accountability. Nobody is answerable to anything. They have been so long in the system for at least 4 decades, almost 4 decades. What has been done to the Indian education system? What improvement has been brought? Where is the quality of education gone? Nobody will answer. As you said, the assessment parameters today are number of institutions we brought, number of programs we introduced, okay, number of programs we did, so many training programs. So that is that quantification becomes the criteria for assessing rather than the qualitative parameters. Where have you taken the Indian education? In which direction it is moving? Because we have been directionless. We have not been able to be very frank, not able to visualize where we want to take our country, towards which direction we want to move to. And it has not been able to weed out these dubious and poor performing institutions. Now, yes, the new regime will have powers to, close these institutions and even provide jail terms for those who actually do not align themselves to the provisions of the law. And then, try to reduce this corruption by having a faceless interface between the institutions and these regulatory bodies. The greater the interface, physical interface, greater the chances of, favorableness. Okay, create different bodies, of course, for each of the function, and an umbrella organization. Public disclosures has already been discussed. Yes, creating an ecosystem for accreditation is perfectly okay. This probably, I understand this has been borrowed from American system, that body called chia and their higher education. So that is, there is a chia as an umbrella body like that. The government is thinking of having an apex body for accreditation. And who would be the actually accrediting body, we don't know much about. If they actually restrict, the same fate a company would happen as it has happened with NAC and NBA. I'm very frank about it. Next important thing which they in fact want to bring about is trying to curb commercialization of education. Now, this is probably appears for the general public music, rather than really trying to work out something about it. If you look at commercialization of education, is already there in the country. Look at whether it's a school education or higher education, they all are commercialized. Except that all these institutions are registered or run by institutions which are not for profit. That's it, legally. But in reality, there is a commercialization, 100% commercialization. There's no choice, right? And if I give the same reference to internationalization of Indian education system, no international education institution would actually put its foot on the Indian soil if this provision is not moved for. The moment you remove the provision for them, then you are not creating level playing field. So this is a tricky situation. If it is not removed, you will not have internationalization. If you remove only for them, then what's wrong with remove for the Indian institutions? Then there will be penalty for false disclosures. That's what today, if you look at institutions, oh wow, what all disclosures they make on their websites or on whatever the documents they provide in different places. Okay, if that penal aspect can come, and it will be a great thing. Okay. Now let me look at what must be done. What should these higher educational regulatory bodies do? What is the kind of challenges they must take in? I'm of the firm belief that their role should be more of a nurturing and supporting higher education towards excellence, which they have not been done. They in fact brought what we call an inspectorial regime in the country and forgotten that the main aim of nurturing. Okay, train and guide in setting curricula, pedagogy, and assessment tools. Train the people. Whatever investment you have, you put it on those people. That's build your human capacity in the country. So these people, when they move in the future time, the youngsters, they would be, in fact, be the torchbearers for the entire education system. People like us who are on the fag end of our career probably could give whatever we have learned and whatever we developed ourselves. A lot of inquisitiveness has helped us to come to this stage. Now, I don't know, and to be very frank, Professor Grewal would agree with me that when we were growing in this profession, we never had any workshop or anybody to, in fact, give us a guideline how teaching should take place, how curriculum must be developed, and what is all accreditation, etc. All that we have learned is through our own efforts. Okay. Now, to do that, it has taken many years for us. But this period can be shortened if these bodies can intervene and provide this kind of platform to the youngsters. Promote research and extension activities. You know, how do they do? They go to have that perspective plan in their mind. Facilitate collaborations and interface with industry and with the foreign institutions. Because you being in a government body have an easy access, and your your word would carry far more meaning to them than an individual institution reaching out to them. So create that kind of a platform and undertake faculty and leadership development towards achieving excellence. Tell people how excellence is achieved. You know, in fact, not only tell them, train them, prepare them for that, and work towards guiding HEIs to be part of global excellence system. You know, we are all harping on global ranking system. I would rather be one who will not like to be ranked, but there is nothing wrong to follow what are they doing, what is in fashion today in the in a global perspective. See, if you look at this ranking system across the globe, what are those three most important global ranking bodies? You know, that is whether the Times or what you call the Shanghai and your
QS ranking.
QS ranking. All three of them, if you go a little deeper into them, the two most important components are internationalization of education and research. Somebody has to the tune of 70 to 80% these two components. Majority of them have more than 60% these two components. So we can, think of where would be in fact led, as Professor Grewal said, A++ rated institution does not find a place in first 1,000 ranked institutions globally. Where is accountability? It's so, I mean, what is our accreditation system then? How come you rank them the best of the best, A++, and they don't find there any place in global competitiveness? Now, this is a major lacuna in our system which needs to be done away with that. Now, let me come on to the internationalization. Okay, most of the things have been already dealt with by Professor Grewal. I would deal with a couple of things which I noted down. Number one, internationalization would happen by having students in India, faculty from international, and of course, learning from them. Three important things. Faculty in our institutions will not be attracted unless otherwise we create that conditions or those situations. First and foremost situation is, let's take care of their salary, which is at par with global standards. Our rules, especially the labor laws, prohibit that. There is limitations put by the government on to what extent you can remunerate them, number one. Number two, our work permit system has to change and visa system has to change. Unless we first do this, and of course, other infrastructural facilities provided to them according to their own, they will not get attracted. Number one. Number two, same case with the students. You might have few students from third world or underdeveloped or developing countries, but that's not significant. Can we really attract students from so-called developed countries? Can somebody from US, Britain, France, Germany, whichever the country, Australia or New Zealand or Canada, from the lowest of their institutions, take admission into the best of our institutions? That is the challenge as of now. Probably they not prefer. Why they don't prefer? We got to really have a deep dive into this aspect. So that requires again a research. Why they are not attracted? we are not able to attract them. That's point number. Number two, the government said top 100 institutions will be allowed to set up. I think we as a nation are not not aligned with the realities of the world. Will we be an attractive proposition for these top 100 institutions in the country? Look at all of them. Today, if you look at, there are, 2018 data says that 7,52,000 students from India are going abroad for their education. Right? And approximate outgo on our foreign exchange exchequer is $13.5 billion, approximately 95,000 crore rupees is spent on them. Having, very good institutions or best institution in the country may not reduce this. I'm a firm view, because students might have multiple reasons to go abroad. So you can't stop them. Maybe a small percentage could be attracted, but to have an equivalent income generated in foreign exchange, we start attracting students from across the board. That would compensate us. That would give a different environment within the country. And that can only happen, as I mentioned earlier. No institution would come for social cause. If they have to do a social cause, they will do in their own countries. The only reason they would come to our country is generating profits, generating surplus, and taking that surplus back. The government in the national education policy says that surplus generated has to be pumped back to the institution. So that's a big difference as far as I understand. And I propose, or rather I'm of a firm view, that the list of 100 should expand to almost about 1,000, because when you see your best of the institutions in the, why am I saying this? When you see best of the institutions in your country, don't figure in 1,000. Are we saying that our institutions are not quality institutions? Now, if our institutions not figuring in the first 1,000, if we call them quality institutions, why can't other institutions which we figure in 1,000 be called as the quality institutions, and they be allowed to operate in our country? Okay. Why, if you look at nations like UAE, Bahrain, Malaysia, Singapore, etc., they have been attractive destination for large number of foreign universities, is because they have created that kind of a system in there. And another important thing I suggest is government has to do away with those restrictive practices for these organizations. Maybe we say, for example, reserving something and what percentage of surplus could be pumped back and taken back, and choice of programs and choice of student selection. These are some of those restrictive practices. Unless done away, it will not be a attractive destination for certain institutions abroad. That's what I would like to say. Thank you so much, everyone. And I hope I've been able to give some little bit insight into the topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. In fact, आपको सुनने के बाद really, in real sense, we are able to know that how the over regulation in higher education is affecting the Indian education system. मुझे एक शेर याद आ गया, इनफैक्ट जो आपने बोला,
शेर वैसे भी शेर हो
नहीं, आपने इतने अच्छे से बोला कि जिन्हें आपस में टकराने से फुर्सत नहीं मिलती, उन्हीं शाखों के पत्ते लहलहाना भूल जाते हैं। मेरे ख्याल से इसी वजह से जो है, इन्हीं सब वजहों से जो ओवर रेगुलेशन एंड आपस में जो एक दूसरे की ये जो काउंसिल्स हैं, ये जो फ्लरिश नहीं हो पा रहा है। तो मुझे याद आ गया एक्चुअली Anyway, sir, you are a wonderful academician. As we know, we are working under you, and you are having hands-on experience on developing roadmaps, strategic directions for universities and educational institution using many, like in the TMU also you have implemented balance scorecard systems. You are preferring to focus on 360-degree approach to institutional management, and really your processes and systems which you are trying to implement are uh, visionary, having visionary mm, facts, and your seamless approach, uh, and that align with your vision, with long-term strategic goals and their execution. Another domain like KRA and KPIs are designed to induce and monitor actual performance. New PMS, that is the performance management system designed for university system and large institution, is highly appreciable, and we can say Teerthanker Mahaveer University is in safe hands. Few questions which I have related to
Yeah,
the higher
please.
education and its implementation. Like, sir, as per the new education policy,
Yeah.
in fact, a few of our audience has also written in chat box that in UG program of 3 to 4 years, the exit is at 1 year for certificate, 2 year for
Yeah.
diploma, 3 years
Yeah.
for degree, and
Yeah.
4 years for complete degree, and that is eligible for PhD. But
Yeah.
we do not have any roadmap for syllabi for this kind of exit. So I on the behalf of participant, I request
No,
you to.
see that for a degree, there is a curriculum available to you. See, when you have a, say a degree program in electrical engineering, for example, so the program is already available. If a student has completed with you 1 year, you will have given him a certificate for 1 year, certificate in electrical engineering. If he has completed those many times, I mean, there is no separate curriculum for these things. It's integrated within your degree program. So you have a complete curriculum, and when you exit after 1 year, you get a certificate. That's it.
Okay, sir. Okay. Sir, another question is related with the research that one scholar has asked, that in present system, like degree awarding institution, many institutions are only degree awarding. You have also pointed out, like B.Ed and PhD are being awarded for non-attendee. So in a new education policy, how we are going to cure these kind of problems?
See, if you look at our higher education system, teachers or faculty like you and me enters in the class without any understanding of education. I remember my first day of the class when I entered. I had every entire lesson on my paper, and I was referring from this time and again, because nobody actually ever taught me how to interact with students effectively. So the new PhD guidelines which are going to be would necessarily will have various courses on education, maybe assessment, pedagogy, curriculum design, all those things would be a part of the PhD coursework as today we have. So you would definitely be much more educated. That means youngsters would be much more educated on how to, in fact, teach and learn.
Dr. Sonia, who is another moderator, she didn't get the opportunity to interact with Professor Brigadier Grewal. Now,
Okay.
Dr. Sonia, you may please.
Thank you, Professor Dwivedi, and thank you, Professor Singh. Whatever you said, that was very insightful. Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Sir, do you think that this education policy is our PM's strategy for self-reliant India?
Yes, it is, imagined towards it, self-reliant, because unless otherwise you have a skillful human resource in the country, you can never become a self-reliant. Right? So for self-reliance, your fundamental education has to be very, very strong, right from school, not just higher education. See, today, the pitiful condition of higher education is, equally pitiful condition of primary and secondary education. So the rote learning has begun from there, and it continues throughout your graduate and postgraduate education. So unless that whole thing changes, the self-reliance can't come only by words. It has to be ingrained in our education system. Okay, and it tell you that it will not happen overnight. It might take another 2 decades for us to change. We are too slow to, even to react. Forget about plan and do it. This particular thing should have happened about 40 years back. But anyway, वो कहते हैं ना देर आए दुरुस्त आए.
Yes, sir, definitely. We just hope that it leads to whatever his views are about the self-reliant India. So one more question. How
Yeah,
are we going to finance higher education, as they have not provided any realistic way in which private institutions can raise funds? So how do you think we are going to meet these challenges?
In fact, there is no roadmap. That's what, two models which as today also they persist. They call it one is public funding, okay, which has limitations. If you look back, even in 1960s, the government has been harping to raise, budgetary allocations for higher education to the tune of 6% of the GDP. And today we are hovering around 1.6 to 1.8% of GDP. So it's been, almost about 60 years or 6 decades where we have not been able to put in money in higher education or education for that matter. And second source is philanthropy. Philanthropy will not work in India. There are limited philanthropists in the country. So to the kind of educational requirement is there, philanthropy is not going to work. It's ultimately we will have to make education commercialized. There is no alternative to it. So, organizations, that is your government has to bring in, though they have brought in what is called as educational institutions can be registered under Companies Act, but then they have so many other requirements. So people hesitate to even register under Companies Act. So unless otherwise a graded commercialization approach is brought, we would continue to languish. Suppose if you want to have a research-focused university, you need huge amounts of money. Where that money is going to come from, that is a big thing. So government has to really think about it, where the money is going to come from. So as of now, it is.
As we say that institutes are like Vidya ka Mandir, but we are really not getting patrons to give funding. Well, thank you, sir. I think we have covered all of our questions now.
Dr. Sonia, I have one question with Professor Singh.
Okay, sir.
As in new education policy, credit transfer and academic bank of credit mechanism is mentioned. However, exactly the implementation of this?
See, the details aren't worked out. See, this is just a policy. So you will always have a kind of a guidelines.
Okay.
Regulations, all those bodies which are, going to be created would have to work out on all the details, how it will happen. But I can briefly give you, see, for example, one, it says whatever credit you earn in the foreign university would be taken care back home. Okay. That means how universities will provide you that opportunity, number one. Number two, credit bank means whatever you earn. For example, you said a student who goes out of the education system after 1 year because of the, maybe financial or any other reason, and he has earned about, say, 50 credits.
Okay.
So that 50 credits gets transferred to his bank like our money. We can come back and withdraw that money anytime. So I come back after 5 years to my education system and start, from there onwards, use that credit to any institutions wherever I want to be. Say, if I'm today in Moradabad, after 5 years, I want to do it in Mumbai, I carry this, education credits and use it in that particular institution like I would use my bank money. That is the concept.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your valuable address and insight. I hope तुलसीदास जी ने एक रामचरितमानस में एक चौपाई लिखी है कि अर्क जवास पात बिनु भयउ जस सुराज खल उद्यम गयउ। तो जैसे गुड गवर्नेंस आता है तो बहुत सारे लोगों के जो पेटी प्लानिंग्स होते हैं वो ऑटोमेटिकली टार्निश हो जाते हैं। तो आई होप विद दिस न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी हमारा जो देश है और जो हमारे कंट्री का विजन है, जैसा कि मैंने इनिशियली बोला था कि उस ग्लोरी को जो हम 3000 साल पहले थे, विद न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी we are ably creating a new ecosystem, and with the direction of all great academicians like you, we may build a strong higher education system in order to prepare a strong nation. Thank you, sir. Thanks for your valuable
advice. It's been a pleasure interacting with every one of you, and thank you, Dr. Rakesh, for organizing this particular program. It's been a wonderful interacting with you all, and congratulations to your entire team for executing it so nicely. Thank you, and look forward to the next session tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Please. Bye.
Thank you, sir. As all good things come to an end in life, so is the session for today. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Raghuveer Singh, respected Director, Sir, Professor R.K. Dwivedi, our most valued invited guest, Professor Grewal, ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of Faculty of Engineering and Computing Science and the entire organizing team, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all the speakers for gracing today's webinar and sharing with us your findings and opinions. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Professor Grewal for his explanation of NEP 2020. A very big thank you to Professor Raghuveer Singh for giving an excellent coverage to transformation of regulatory framework and internationalization of higher education. We are all inspired by and enlightened by your great words, sir. I would also like to take this opportunity to place a record or our hearty thanks to Professor R.K. Dwivedi for the support and guidance he has extended to all of us at this occasion. I also extend my thanks to Professor Raghuveer Singh for his enormous cooperation in the organization of this event. Well, ladies and gentlemen, an event like this cannot happen overnight. It requires planning and a bird's eye for details. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues of FOE and CS who knows their job and are result oriented. I cannot thank everyone enough for their involvement and their willingness to take on the completion of tasks beyond their comfort zones. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I want to state that we are all most grateful to the speakers. We thank you for being with us this evening. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
we
sir.
are going to meet tomorrow. Okay.
Yes, we look forward to meet. Bye.
सलीम सर मीटिंग एंड कर दीजिए।
जी सर जी।